Hey guys, I'm Kayla Fournier and welcome to Zay's Crochet and Macrame. Today I'm going to show you how to make a crochet long sleeve lace crop top. Now in this tutorial I will be showing you how to make a size small, but I will also be guiding you through how to make a size medium as well as some other suggestions on how to make this top to your own custom fit. And if you're on Instagram, feel free to follow me at Zay's Crochet to stay updated with the latest patterns and tutorials that I come out with. If you don't feel like making your own crop top and would like to buy a finished product, feel free to visit my Etsy store at Zay's Crochet. I also have written patterns on there available as well if you prefer written over video tutorials. Like this video if it was useful to you, and comment down below and let me know your thoughts on this pattern. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel so that you can stay updated on the latest crochet and macrame tutorials. Alright guys, let's get started.
For this tutorial, you will need a size 3.25mm crochet hook, crafting scissors, and a yarn threading needle. I'm going to be using Cascade Yarn's Ultra Pima 100% Pima cotton yarn. This is my favorite yarn to use for clothing. It is machine washable. Here are the measurements in case you decide to use a different cotton yarn. I will be using a total of 3.5 balls of yarn, which are 220 yards each, for a total of 770 yards total of yarn. Roll your yarn into a ball and let's get started. So we're going to start off by making a slip knot. And then we're going to be making a size small, so we're going to chain 175. If you're going to do a size medium, chain 203. And if you would like to size up, do an extra 28 chains for each size larger you would like to make. After you do all your chains, we're going to go ahead and slip stitch right into the first chain that we've done. And when you go ahead and slip stitch, we're going to be making like a giant circle, so make sure that it is all lined up and not twisted, that your chains are not in a twist, because then it won't come out evenly as we do our rows. So just go ahead and slip stitch into the very first chain here. Starting row 1, we're going to chain 4. Skip the next chain, double crochet into the second chain. So for a double crochet, yarn over, put your hook through, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And these first 3 chains here are going to act as our first double crochet. Chain 1, skip the next chain, double crochet into the second chain. Chain 1, skip the next chain, double crochet into the second chain. And we're just going to continue to repeat the same pattern all the way around to the other side. Okay, I've ended on a double crochet, and now I'm going to slip stitch into the third chain here. And that will complete row 1. Now on to row 2. We're going to chain 2 and do a half double crochet into the chain 1 space. Yarn over, pull your hook through, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. Do another half double crochet into the next stitch, half double crochet into the next chain 1 space, half double crochet into the next stitch. So we're going to continue to do a half double crochet into every stitch all the way around to the other end. Alright, we made it all the way around to the end, and now I'm going to slip stitch into the top of the second chain here, because the first 2 chains acts as our first half double crochet. And now we are done with row 2. On to row 3, we're going to chain 4, And I'm going to do a double crochet right back into the same stitch. Then I'm going to chain 7. And we're going to skip over the next 6 stitches and do a double crochet into the 7th stitch. Chain 1 and do another double crochet back into that same stitch. Chain 7 again and skip the next 6 stitches and double crochet into the 7th stitch. Chain 1, double crochet back into the same stitch. And we're going to just continue to repeat the same pattern all the way around to the end of the row. Alright, I made it to the end of my row. I've chained 7 and I'm slip stitching into the 3rd chain here in the beginning to complete row 3. Now I'm going to slip stitch into that chain 1 space and start row 4. Oh, okay, I got a little visit from my cat here. Alright, for row 4 we're going to chain 4, double crochet back into the same 1 space. We're going to be repeating the same thing as row 3. Chain 7, skip on over to the chain 1 space and do 1 double crochet, chain 1, 1 double crochet into the same chain 1 space. And chain 7, skip on over to the chain 1 space and just continue the same pattern all the way around to the other side. I made it to the end of row 4. I've chained 7 and I'm going to slip stitch into the 3rd chain at the beginning here. Slip stitch into the chain 1 space, and now we'll start row 5. So I'm going to chain 4, double crochet back into the chain 1 space. Now this time we're going to chain 3 and do a slip stitch right here into the chain 7 space. Chain 3, double crochet into the chain 1 space, chain 1, double crochet back into the same chain 1 space, chain 3, slip stitch into the chain 7 space, chain 3, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet into the same chain 1 space. Now we're going to continue to repeat this same pattern all the way around to the end of the row. Alright, I'm at the end of row 5. I've chained 3 and now I'm going to slip stitch into the 3rd chain at the beginning here. Slip stitch into the next chain 1 space, and now we will start row 6. Now I'm going to chain 3 and do a double crochet into the chain 1 space, chain 1, and do 2 more double crochets back into the same chain 1 space. So now I'm going to chain 7, skip on over to the next chain 1 space, and do 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets back into the same chain 1 space. Chain 7, skip on over to the next chain 1 space and do the same thing. 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets into the same space. So we're just going to continue to repeat this pattern all the way around to the other side. I'm now at the end of row 6. I've chained 7 and I'm going to slip stitch at the top of the 3rd chain here. And that completes our row. Now I'm going to slip stitch into the next 2 stitches. So right on top of this double crochet stitch here, I'm going to slip stitch and then slip stitch into that chain 1 space. Now we're going to chain 3, do a double crochet back into the same chain 1 space, chain 1, 2 more double crochets back into that same chain 1 space. Now this row we're going to chain 3 and do a slip stitch into the chain 7 space, chain 3, do 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets into the next chain 1 space. Chain 3, slip stitch into the next chain 7 space, chain 3, continue the same pattern all the way around to the end of this row. Now once we get to the end of the row, we're going to slip stitch to the beginning 3rd chain here where we first started. And then for the next 6 rows, we're going to repeat the same thing as rows 6 and 7. So once you get to row 13, I will meet you there. Okay, so I've made it up to row 13, and if you are doing a size larger than a small or a medium, I would suggest doing a few more rows to fit your proper size before we start doing the holes for the arms. So I have started part of row 14, and so I've gone over for a total of 8 of these vertical lace rows here, while chaining 7 in between each one. So I've stopped on the 8th one, and if you're doing a size medium, you'll stop on the 9th one, and then we're going to start doing our holes for our arms. And now we're going to chain 23. And then we're going to skip over the next 4 vertical lace rows and go right into the 5th one. If you're doing a size medium, skip over 5 of them and go right into the 6th one. So I'm going to work right in there with a double crochet, and then another double crochet, chain 1, 2 more double crochets into the same chain 1 space. So I'm just going to chain 7, and I'm just going to continue over to the other side of this row the same way I normally would. So I'll be doing a total of 9 of these vertical lace rows before I stop at the next arm sleeve. For the size medium, you'll be going over 10 so that I can make sure I have 4 vertical lace rows and chain my 23 and slip stitch into the beginning where I started here. Alright, so I have completed the row. I chained 23, I skipped over 4 of these vertical lace rows, skip over 5 if you were doing a size medium. And we are now done with row 14. On to row 15. Going to slip stitch into the next stitch and slip stitch into the next chain 1 space, chain 3, double crochet into the same space, chain 1, 2 more double crochets into the same space. Chain 3, and then slip stitch into the chain 7 space, chain 3, 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets into that same chain 1 space, just like we normally would. So continue the pattern, coming all the way to the arm sleeve here. Alright, I made my way over, and now I'm going to crochet across the armhole here. I'm going to chain 3 and skip over the next 3 chains and slip stitch into the 4th chain. Chain 3, skip over the next 3 chains and do a double crochet into the 4th chain. And do another double crochet into that same chain with a chain 1 and 2 more double crochets into that same chain space. So we're just going to keep repeating that to the other side of the armhole, arm sleeve, whatever you want to call it. Okay, I made my way over, and I'm just going to continue as I normally would, making my way to the other side of the row. So come over here to the next armhole and do the same exact thing we just did. Okay, we've completed row 15. So now we're just going to be continuing the same pattern as we normally would with nothing different. So for the next 15 rows, we're going to be repeating the same thing of row 14 and 15 without making all the chains for the armholes, of course. So just continue this pattern till we get to row 30. Alright, I've made it to row 30, but feel free to make this top as long as you want. If you don't want it to be a crop top and you want to cover your whole stomach, go right ahead and just keep on going until you get the length that you desire. We are now on row 31. I'm going to chain 4 and do a double crochet back into that same chain 1 space. Chain 2, and then skip over the next 3 chains and double crochet into the 4th chain. Chain 1, double crochet back into that same chain 1 space. Chain 2, skip over to the chain 1 space and do a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet back into the same chain 1 space. Chain 2, skip over the next 3 chains and double crochet into the 4th chain. Chain 1, double crochet back into that same chain 1 space. So we're just going to continue to repeat the same pattern all the way around to the other side. Alright, I've made it to the end of row 31. I've chained 2, and now I'm going to slip stitch into the top of the 3rd chain here from the beginning. I'm going to slip stitch into the next chain 1 space and then start row 32. So chain 3, do 2 double crochets back into that same chain 1 space. And now we're going to do a picot stitch. So for a picot stitch, we're going to chain 3 and slip stitch back into the beginning of that double crochet stitch. Now do 3 more double crochets back into that same chain 1 space. Chain 1, skip over to the next chain 1 space and do a slip stitch. Chain 1, skip over to the next chain 1 space and do 3 double crochets, a picot, and 3 more double crochets back into that same chain 1 space. Chain 1, skip over the next chain 1 space and do a slip stitch. Chain 1 and work into the next chain 1 space. So continue that same pattern all the way around to the other side. I'm now at the end of row 32. I've slip stitched and then chained 1, and I'm going to just slip stitch right into the beginning 3rd chain where we first started. I'm now going to cast off and tie a secure knot. Alright, we have finished the base of our crop top, and now we're going to move on to the arm sleeves. If you don't want any arm sleeves, feel free to just end here for a regular short sleeve crop top. Alright, so for the arm sleeves, we're just going to start anywhere into a chain 1 space. So I'm going to choose this chain 1 space right here to slip stitch in, and I'm going to chain 3. Double crochet back into the same chain 1 space, chain 1, 2 more double crochets back into that same chain 1 space, and then I'm going to chain 7, skip over to the next chain 1 space with 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets into the same space, then chain 7 again, and just continue the same pattern all the way around. Once you get to this corner here of the arm sleeve, you're just going to work right into here, into that little corner chain 1 space there before we continue on to here. So working right into there, do your 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets right into that hidden little chain 1 space. And then chain 7, and go right over here to this chain 1 space to do your 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets. So we'll just continue this all the way around to the end of the row. So I'm near the end of row 1 of my arm sleeve, and I'm going to work right into this chain 1 space just like I did on the other side. Chain 7, and then slip stitch right into the 3rd chain at the beginning here to complete row 1. So that's the start of our arm sleeve. Now slip stitch into the next 2 stitches, and we'll start row 2, chain 3, double crochet into the same chain 1 space, chain 1, 2 more double crochets into the same chain 1 space, chain 3, slip stitch into the chain 7 space, chain 3, 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets into the same chain 1 space. So we'll just continue to repeat this same pattern all the way around to the other side. So once we get to the end of row 2, we're just going to slip stitch into the beginning 3rd chain here like we normally would. And for the next 57 rows, we're just going to repeat rows 1 and 2. So once you get to row 59, I'll meet you there. Alright, I've made it to row 59 of my arm sleeve, and you can make your arm sleeve as long or as short as you'd like. This is my preferred length. So now we're just going to slip stitch into the next 2 stitches. And then we'll start row 60. Chain 4, slip double crochet back into the same chain 1 space, chain 2, skip the next 3 chains and double crochet into the 4th chain, chain 1, double crochet into the same chain 1 space, chain 2, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet into the next chain 1 space. So chain 2, skip the next 3 chains, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet into the same chain 1 space. Repeat that same pattern all the way around. I'm at the end of row 60, I've chained 2, skipping over to my 3rd chain here to slip stitch. So then we're going to slip stitch into the next chain 1 space and start row 61. Chain 3, do 2 double crochets into the same chain 1 space, and then do your picot, three more double crochets back into that same chain 1 space, chain 1, slip stitch into the next chain 1 space, chain 1, do 3 double crochets into the next chain 1 space, do your picot, and then 3 more double crochets back into that same chain 1 space. Chain 1, slip stitch into the next chain 1 space, and repeat that pattern all the way around. Alright, I made it to the end of row 61. I slip stitched, chained 1, and now I'm going to slip stitch into the beginning 3rd chain here. And then we're going to cast off, and that completes our first arm sleeve. Here's what the arm sleeve looks like on my hand. I like it to end right about at my knuckles where my fingers first start. You can make it however long or short you'd like. So go ahead and make the second arm sleeve the exact same way. Alright, so I have made my second arm sleeve and I sewed in all my loose ends with my needle, and now my top is officially complete. I hope you guys followed this tutorial all right. Please comment down below and let me know if it was easy enough for you to do and your thoughts on this top and overall pattern. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel for more DIY, crochet, and macrame tutorials. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Zay's Crochet so you can be updated the quickest on the new patterns and tutorials that I will come out with. Okay guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed. Have a wonderful day.